to hold on as I have some more news from Democratic Republic of Congo. And in fact, let's tell you that the UN has condemned the brutal attacks in eastern DRC that killed 17 civilians, including women in labor and patients receiving care at a Catholic-run church health center. Now, 4 wards were set ablaze during the assault in Byambwe, which took place 60 kilometers west of Lubero in North Kivu province. The region is long plagued by clashes between armed groups and national forces. The UN called the attack appalling and urged immediate protection for civilians, stressing the need for accountability as extremist allied democratic forces continue to fuel violence, leaving vulnerable communities at heightened risk across the region. The Allied Democratic Forces are an armed group of Ugandan origin that has operated in eastern DRC for decades. And I want to bring back Mr. Paul into the discussion. What's your reaction to the condemnation that has come from the United States over this? Do you think there are going to be any heads rolling after the condemnation from the UN?
I don't think there will be any heads rolling after the condemnation, especially with the way the condemnation were worded. You know, the condemnation were not worded in strong terms enough. I mean, the UN was even saying that these actions, which are clearly genocide and war crimes, the UN statement said it may be termed as war crimes. So using the word may instead of is a war crime shows that the UN itself is not ready to call it what it is, and therefore I am not expecting any heads to roll. But let us ask ourselves, how did many of these African countries get to where they are? Countries like DRC Congo. It is simply because over time in all of these African countries, the government only has the exclusive right to hold guns. The government forces only has exclusive rights to hold guns. If citizens have before now had opportunities, access to legally hold guns, many of the troubles that are brewing, that are unrelenting, that takes months and months of negotiation that seems to be going nowhere to curb in many of these African nations would have died out naturally. And I think that many of the international instigators who are collaborating behind this, because one of the terrorist groups fingered in this particular clash that we are reporting is the ADF, which is a Ugandan-based terrorist group spilling into Democratic Republic of Congo, and they are allied to ISWAP and ISIS. So it shows to you that you know, until UN, then international agencies are able, because on the long run, for you and I, all these wars are business for some people. The donations, the money to do humanitarian, whatever, you know, is in billions and hundreds of millions of dollars. There are some people sitting on it.
All right, I'll have to cut you short there as I'm running short on time here. But thank you, Mr. Paul, for joining us. We have some news from Tunisia. Thousands of Tunisians have marched in the capital in a protest against injustice and repression, accusing President Kais Saied of cementing one-man rule by using the judiciary and police. The wave of the protest has swept Tunisia, involving journalists, doctors, banks, and public transport systems. The protesters have demanded the closure of chemical plant on environmental grounds. The rally has brought together activists, NGOs, and fragmented parties from across the spectrum in a rare display of unity against Saied. However, it has highlighted Tunisia's severe political and economic crisis and poses a major challenge to Saied, who seized power in protester has responded. Let's listen into what the protester had to say.
تقريبا هذا النظام الحالي يمثل استمرارية لأسوأ حاجة صارت في البلاد، وتقريبا الحاجات الباهية اللي صارت طيلة 14 سنة في الثورة وقع تحويل وجهتها، سردية واحدة، لون واحد، راي واحد، وسردية واحدة وحكاية واحدة. نحن اليوم بشكل واضح وبشكل ما عندناش حرج نقولوه، تونس تتسع لكل التونس.
And that's a wrap on Africa Brief, but keep watching NewsX World for more news updates from across the world.